Hello and welcome. I'm Victor Matthias, standing in for your regular host, Seun Okimbaloye. For the sixth day running, youths across the country throng the streets in continuation of End SARS protest. The President Muhammadu Buhari promises extensive police reforms in response to the End SARS protest. Hello there, and thank you for staying with us. Welcome to Politics Today. I'm Victor Matthias again. Now, the nation is witnessing a wave of protests by Nigerian youths against alleged police brutality. This End SARS protest is happening simultaneously in major cities across the country, in Abuja, in Jos, in Plateau State, in Lagos, amongst other cities. The youths blocked major highways, forcing commuters and motorists going about their daily businesses to a standstill, which has led to a major gridlock. This is continuing despite the president's decision to ban the special anti-robbery unit in the country. In some parts where the protests took place, it became violent when gunshots were fired on the protesters. In a video obtained by Channels Television in some parts of Lagos, a man was seen lying down lifeless. Another protester was on the scene and was said to have been shot on the leg. On Politics Today, we will also take a look at the lessons of the just concluded elections in Ondo State and, of course, in Edo. We know that the Speaker of the House of Representatives has been sent packing by his colleagues. These are the stories we will be bringing to you today on the program. Well, let's get started. The pictures we're about to show you now are those of protesters in Surulere in Lagos, where the demonstrators started peacefully, but the demonstration along the line was disrupted by gunshots that came from the police.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved across all formations, the 36 state police commands, and the Federal Capital Territory, where they currently exist.
It seems Nigerians are not swayed by the pronouncement of the Inspector General of Police appearing to yield to their demands by scrapping the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. That's because the day after that pronouncement, they are back on major streets across the country, continuing days of protests. According to them, the IGP's previous promises to rein in the SARS operatives have had no effect. In Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, protesters blocked the Lekki toll gate end of the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway, forcing commuters and motorists on their way to work to a standstill.
We're not asking for audio disbandment. They've done it before. We're asking them that the president does it by himself on national TV.
The presidential order brought SARS to war. If he wants to remove them, he has to put his signature to it.
We are not safe in our own houses. I cannot come out of my house and be afraid if I'm going to come back or not.
The other SARS have been disbanded. As I'm talking to you right now, they are disarming them in police command headquarters. And they have been sent to different other formations. As I'm talking to you, they are collecting the arms and weapons that SARS are using.
They insist that the president himself should make the pronouncement disbanding the SARS by way of an executive order.
I think we want to just let our voice that a couple of things. We're not just asking for ending SARS. That's one of the problems, right? We're talking about prosecution of those who have killed innocent people. So if we end it and nobody's going to jail, we're not solving the problem. We understand that there's a bigger problem of reforms. That's one thing. But reforms has to begin with the conversation. Now, this is the first time young people are waking up. We're not just asking for SARS to end. We're also looking at corruption. We're looking at ineptitude as a system.
And in Abuja, the nation's capital, the protesters gathered at the Burger area as they changed their song from the popular End SARS chant calling instead for an end to police brutality.
Well, not many saw this coming, and even those who did envisage this, they didn't envisage it to stay for this long. 6 days down the line, protesters are still on the streets. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, in response to this protest, says he has heard the voices of the youths and promised to ensure total reform of the force. The President made the promise during the launch of the Presidential Youth Empowerment Scheme in Abuja.
To say a word of the recent genuine concerns and agitations by Nigerians about the excessive use of force and, in some cases, extrajudicial killings and wrongful conduct by men of the Nigerian police force. The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. We also deeply regret the loss of life of the young man in Oyo State during the recent demonstrations. I have directed that the circumstances of his death should be thoroughly investigated. Meanwhile, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of men and women of the police force are hardworking and diligent in performing their duties. The few bad eggs should not be allowed to tarnish the image and reputation of the force.
Well, now joining us to take a look at some of the things that have been happening in the country and also the response by the president, we have joining us from our Abuja studio, Mr. Kabiru Adamu. He is a security expert. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
The pleasure is mine, Victor. Good evening.
Good evening once again. So, so much water has gone under the bridge since the protests started. Of course, from a security point of view, where do you see this heading?
The protests, as they were, usually assume a life of their own. Once you allow them to start, and in some instances, if they draw blood, as it were, they achieved to an extent one of the objectives, then they begin to manifest, life-like symptoms where they go into directions that even those who originated the protest, unfortunately, cannot predict. It appears that is what we have in our hands at the moment. The protest started as EndSARS, and now it's assuming a bigger dimension than EndSARS. Today, what we're hearing in Abuja is end police brutality. We've also had elements around corruption, and then, of course, the extrajudicial killings. Now, we should not exclude the possibility that elements outside of the protesters can also take advantage of the protest itself, political elements, and then, unfortunately, crime factors too can come in, just like it has happened across the world. A good example is the Black Lives Matter protest, how it started with the killing of one individual, and then it assumed a bigger than that dimension. So that's the nature of protests across the world.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you made mention of the Black Lives Matter because, again, like you said, it's taken another dimension. And already we've seen that in some parts of the country, people have been, some have been injured, some unfortunately have lost their lives. And this is going to trigger, to an extent, what you just made mention of now, people hijacking this protest. So what can be done to ensure that it doesn't go beyond where it is at the moment?
Okay, I would respond in two parts. Firstly, I would like every youth, Nigerian youth, listening to this to remember that the challenge is most times not the individual the police personnel. The challenge is systemic. So there are aspects of the Police Act, the laws that enable the use of force, unfortunately without proportionality or even the principles of necessity. In other words, a policeman can use force and nothing really would be held against him because the law that employed him allows him to use that. So let's remember that as youths when we go out to protest. The second part is the responsibility of government. Force in this situation should be jettisoned. Force cannot tame what we're seeing. My recommendation is to identify the leaders of this protest and institutionalize the protest, engage them, ask in terms of demands, what are their demands, and then make genuine effort to meet those demands. And what are those genuine efforts? President Buhari has mentioned today that he has plans to reform the police. That's a genuine effort. And true to his words, I can tell you as a security expert that he has done two basic things that would provide the platform for reforming the police. One of them is the newly enacted Police Act 2020, which introduced elements of the protection of civil liberties and rights of Nigerians. The second one is the Police Trust Fund that would look into the welfare, salary, equipment, and a lot of other things, training of the average policeman. So those two laws are very good platforms for this promised police reform that he has told us. The next thing is to ensure that the reform actually takes place.
Sorry, exactly. So, and the reform actually, a lot of people actually have some form of, how would I put it now? Like they have observations, about the reforms, but we'll come to that in just a minute. Let's quickly go to our Skype, where we have Mr. Monday Ubani. He is joining us again via Skype. He is a lawyer and a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program. I can see that obviously you are in your car stuck in the traffic, which is as a result of the gridlock that has been caused by the protest. But again, let's just begin with the fact that the president has spoken, which is one of the demands that the protesters have made. What is your reaction to the president's speech today?
Well, thank you for having me.
And of course, just before you go to that, what is it like being in traffic at the moment?
Thank you very much. I've been on traffic for the past 2 hours. When I was invited for this program, I left my office 4:45, believing that from Awolowo Way to Channels television station that I will arrive there in 20 minutes time and probably have to wait because I've been warned that the road is completely blocked. But unfortunately, I've been on this traffic for the past 2 hours. So it's part of the SARS protest that is going on presently in Lagos. Now, as to the broadcast that was done by the president, I think that is a sign of being sensitive because I had also expected that the president should address the nation on this very important issue that have drawn the youth that have always remained in comatose to come out to protest for the first time. I'm talking about Nigerian youth. I have witnessed protests in this country. I know of Abiola crisis. I knew of about the one that took place in 2012, the fuel subsidy when President Jonathan was in power. But this is the first time that he saw the Nigerian youth, as if they have awoken from slumber in order to demand certain things that is not right, concerning the issue of police and policing in Nigeria. And I'm so happy that they have remained very resilient and persistent in this particular protest. Now, one of the things they're asking, apart from ending SARS...
Mr. Ubani, just hold it for a bit. Before you talk about one of those things that you're trying to bring in, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, of course, you talk about that and more. But we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We still have with us our guests on Skype as well as from our Abuja studio. But just before we went on that break, Mr. Monday Ubani was actually talking about, first of all, he went to memory lane to talk about protests from the past. And then he talked about one of the things that has struck him about this protest and was about to talk about another one before we went on that break. So, Mr. Ubani, just before we went on that break, you were talking about one of the things that has struck you as a result of this protest. Kindly continue.
Yes. Yeah, it's the resilience of the Nigerian youth over this particular fraud. And what they are saying is that apart from ending SARS, you must address the issue of those criminalities, the issue of brutality, the issue of Nigerian police officers, taking Nigerians to ATM in order to withdraw money. There have been instances like that. There have been instances where these men brutalize Nigerian youth. Immediately they see you with laptop or with any phone, iPhone and all that, they assume that you're an armed robber. And the next thing is that they start brutalizing this Nigerian youth. And it has been instances where it has even led to killing. A lot of people have been killed in this country as a result of the fact that these SARS, have shown some level of indiscretion in handling the issue of policing in Nigeria. So if you say you have ended it and you say you want to reform, the next question Nigerian youth are asking, who is reforming who? We have been saying several times that these particular SARS need to be reformed. And this is the third time we have heard about reformation taking place and nothing has happened in that instance. So if we are saying reform, we need to see punishment being meted out to those who have actually, brought bad name to Nigerian police. And there are deeper issues we need to address. One of which is today, if you go to any police station to make a report, Nigerian policeman will ask you to pay money before they take down your statement. For them to go and effect arrest, you have to pay money. For them to go further, in order to probably investigate the matter, you have to give more money. And immediately they have arrested that individual. They now shift their attention now to that individual who is a suspect now and start extorting money from that individual. So it's not about administration of criminal justice. It's about administration of their pockets. So we need to address these deeper issues. If not for the fact that one will be, probably calling for anarchy, one would have said end Nigerian policing in Nigeria, because these guys have ended up giving bad name to issue of police and policing in Nigeria. And so we need to address these issues fundamentally. Now that the president has come up to show some level of sensitivity in answering to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigeria, can we go further in order to engage other persons in order to address this issue that has actually, brought bad name to issue of policing in Nigeria? So it's more issue than ending SARS and then probably making a promise that is going to be reformed. What manner of reform? Who's going to carry out that reform? No, those issue of structure has not been put in place and made known to Nigerians.
Well, we hope all of that will be put in place and also made known to Nigerians. But of course, I have to say again, sorry for the inconvenience that you are having at the moment in the traffic where you are somewhere along Awolowo Road, to the headquarters, global headquarters of Channels Television. Again, thank you for joining us.
Awolowo Way in Ikeja. I'm very sorry about it. It's not Awolowo Road. It's Awolowo Way in Ikeja.
Indeed. Thanks for the correction. But again, thanks for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome. All right. Let me come back to you, Mr. Kabiru. Now that the president has spoken, the IGP has spoken, SARS has been disbanded, but they would be reabsorbed into the Nigerian police form. People are kind of scared. People are still skeptical about these people because they say that these same people are going with the mindset that they have operating as SARS officials into the core force. In your own perspective, do you think it will be any different when they're reabsorbed into the core force?
The worry is a legitimate concern. I do not think that it will be any different. Yes, the mandate for the Special Anti-Robbery Squad may be different from the mandate of the other tactical squads that are existing within the Nigeria Police Force. But the same training, they receive the same training, they are using the same weapon, they probably have the same mindset. So it's a very legitimate concern. And that is why the language all of us are speaking is a language demanding for reform. Without a reform, that is what we'll continue experiencing. And like I said in my opening remarks, President Buhari has provided two good platforms. The newly passed Police Act 2020 and then the Police Trust Fund bill that he has introduced. So those are good platforms for this kind of changes. Beyond that, there are operational issues that need to be looked into. As an example, what are the operational procedures for all the tactical units within the police? How come as a Nigerian I do not know what the operational procedure of the tactical units are? Now, if I know them, anytime there's an infraction or a deviation from that operational procedure, I would know that that officer is doing the wrong thing. As an example, if he attempts to collect my phone and I know it's not within his operational procedure, I can politely question that or use other means to, ask him to call him to account. So those are the kind of reforms that I expect to see. Transparency, changing of some of the laws that allow excessive use of force without the principles of necessity and proportionality. I expect to see those kind of things going forward.
Well, hopefully we see those things going forward, and hopefully the SARS will be reformed even as they're being absorbed into the core force. But I'd have to say thank you for joining us on the program, Kabiru Adumu, security expert. You joined us from our Abuja studio in Abuja.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe.
And hopefully on your way home, you don't get stuck in traffic as well.
Abuja has been relatively okay, except for one particular part.
Thankfully then. But moving forward now, the Speaker of Edo State Assembly, Honorable Francis Okiye, has been impeached. Mr. Okiye's removal followed a motion by the Majority Leader of the House, Honorable Henry Okurobo, that he be removed over allegations of high-handedness. His impeachment letter was signed by 9 out of the 10 members who were present during a briefing sitting today. The House immediately elected Honorable Marcus Onobu, representing Ison West, as the new Speaker.
The former Speaker and the person of right, Honorable Frank Abumeri Okiye, is hereby suspended from the House activities for 3 months to allow proper and uninterrupted investigation into his activities. An ad hoc investigation committee is hereby set up to investigate the tenure of Right Honorable Frank Okiye, especially with regard to finances of the House. All standing committees are hereby dissolved and new committees will be set up in due course. All appointments of aides to Mr. Speaker and other members and former Speaker are hereby terminated with immediate effect. The former Speaker must return all House properties in his possession to the clerk with immediate effect. I remain committed to our working together to achieve the very best for Edo people as we look forward to a robust partnership with the executive arm in ensuring good governance.
Well, there you go. That was how it all played out today at the Edo State House of Assembly. And on that note, we wrap it up on the show today. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.